Hi, my name is Deidre Zarella from the Hanover, and I want to welcome and thank you for attending today's CSR web session, Moving from Customers to Clients. It's sponsored by Hanover Insurance and co-hosted by Valerie Jordan. As you know, Hanover employs a philosophy of limited distribution, where we only engage with a limited number of winning agencies. That would be you. So with that in mind, we strive for ways to bring you added value and to help you improve your agency economics, because when you win, we win. These sessions are just one way that we're trying to add value for you. So Lori, can you help us with just some general housekeeping here before we get started?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Deirdre, back to you.
Thank you. So this is the first in our CSR series co-hosted by Val Jordan. We have 3 others to bring you, and I'd like to encourage you to register for those as well. Val brings years of relevant experience, having been on both the carrier and the agency side of the business, and she's actually walked in your shoes. So we hope that you can glean 1 or 2 ideas from today's presentation that will cause you to pause and consider a change. Because if you want to become better tomorrow, you have to do something different today. So without further delay, I'd like to welcome Val Jordan.
Thanks an awful lot, Deirdre. I appreciate the opportunity. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the first in our 4-part series, which is focused on you. We want to thank the Hanover for putting this program together for you. So let's talk about the objectives of the series and what we're going to be talking about. The objectives are pretty simple. It's to explore the changing role of the CSR from a customer service rep to a client service rep, and to help you to fine-tune your skills to highlight the role of a trusted advisor. As the former head of a 90-person agency, I know how important you are. And before we go any further, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being there, working side by side with your producers, your account executives, your marketing officers, and your principals, whether it's preparing a quote, polishing a proposal, getting a policy issued, or most important of all, the day-to-day contact with your clients. Now more than ever, with direct writers going to the consumer, customers are buying direct and are looking at their insurance as a transactional sale with no need for contact or follow-up. Thus, your role evolves where your client relies on you to provide them with information they need to make an educated decision, and where through your relationships with them, you can capitalize on opportunities to bring coverages to their attention so they are totally protected and well cared for. So let's talk about what we're going to focus on today's call. Here is where we can help you by providing you with the opportunity to both strengthen your current skills while learning new skills that will help you focus on how best to work with your clients. Today we are going to discuss the importance of listening well and related to a proven and established way to maintain your relationships with your client through a system called style awareness. Let's start with listening. There are 3 keys to good listening. 1 is to stay focused. 2 is capturing the message. And 3 is helping the client or the prospect. Let's take them one by one. Staying focused. Whether it be on the phone or in person, listening is critical. With all the things going on in the office and with all the distractions, it's important for us to keep our minds clear before meeting with a prospect or a client or picking up the phone. Take a deep breath before you begin a conversation. During the course of the conversation, you want to monitor yourself to make sure that your mind isn't drifting on or trying to listen to the CSR that's next door, or somebody's coming past your cubicle. You want to make sure that you stay focused. If your mind drifts during the conversation, bring it back to focus, because it's when your mind wanders that you miss the critical comments being made by your client or your prospect. Capturing the message. Don't jump ahead in your mind thinking you know exactly what the individual wants from you. Be open-minded. Make sure you understand what you are being asked to do by parroting back to them your understanding and by asking clarifying questions with a clear understanding of what the client or the prospect wants from you. How do you help the client and the prospect? By using the golden rule of listening. Listeners should listen as he or she would like to be listened to. And here's how you can do that. Don't interrupt when someone is speaking, whether it be on the phone or in person. There is nothing more irritating. If you are on a phone, smile. It's unbelievable that when you smile, the vibes come through the phone and that person is engaged with you. In person, keep good eye contact and use open-ended questions, again, offering support and understanding of what you are hearing. Actively participating and practicing good listening skills will open new opportunities with the client that you might have missed altogether if you had only been paying half attention. Combining listening with style awareness will enhance your ability to interact with others, both your fellow teammates and your clients. So before we begin this next section of the presentation, I want to take a moment and make sure that everybody sort of is on the same page with us. If you've got a comment or a question that you would like to ask, please let us know. So I'll wait a minute and we'll see if anybody has a question.
So at this point, Val, it looks like we're all set.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, so what is style awareness and how can it help you? Good, my slides projected. Okay. Style awareness is a behavior analysis tool. It was founded and actually developed by Dr. David Merrill. Dr. Merrill used the cues, both verbal and nonverbal, in order to be able to identify styles from which you as an individual could adapt in order to have them do what you would like them to do with an end result. So by observing a person when you meet them, you will immediately form impressions which help you determine how to relate to that person. Social styles are the keys of style awareness. They are not personality types, but rather determining factors in identifying through verbal and nonverbal cues which help to identify a particular style. There are two determining axes, and 50% of the population are either askers or tellers, or the second axis, which is they either are very controlled or they emote, which means they're emotional. When you put the graph together, you now have 4 quadrants. Control, tell, emote, emote, ask control, with the first trait in each pairing being the dominating characteristics. There are 4 basic social styles: drivers, analytics, expressives, and amiables. The upper quadrant deals with control. And the first style we're going to focus on is analytics. They are askers. They're controlled in how they relate to people. They are thinkers. They're task-oriented. And that's what an analytic is all about. The second half of the top quadrant deals with people that are controlled and tellers. They are action-oriented. They are drivers. Like an analytic, they are task-oriented. Amiables, in the lower left, are relationship-oriented. They are askers. They ask a lot of questions. They emote. They are very much people-oriented. And the final style, in the lower right-hand side, are expressives. They're very intuitive. They, too, are tellers and emoters. Again, like amiables, they are very people-oriented. So, in order to figure out how or what a style exhibits, let's take them one-on-one. How do you use this graph to help you determine styles, and what do you need to remember are 2 things. People are either askers or tellers. They are controlled or they emote. Determining the answer to these 2 questions assists you in identifying the style from which you will adapt in order to successfully relate to a client or a fellow employee. So let's begin with analytics. The best way to illustrate this style is through examples. So when I was trying to put the presentation together, I was thinking of people that I could bring to your attention, and I looked to the television to find the examples. Simon Cowell from the American Idol is a classic analytic. He is self-controlled, and he asks a lot of questions. His voice is very controlled and doesn't speak loudly. He uses minimum hand gestures and facial expressions. He gathers lots of facts and is slow to react. How about the judges on Dancing with the Stars? Len Goodman would be a good example of an analytic. Limited hand gestures, presents the facts to support his opinion. He's very controlled, and he's very moderate and monotone with his voice. Drivers. This is my style, and I'll tell you a story about this. But a good driver example would be Rudy Giuliani. He's the penultimate driver. He assessed a chaotic situation, was very controlled and calm. He told his team what he wanted them to do and how he would do it based on input from them. Bottom line, the decision was his. He's swift to action. Again, not a screamer, but very controlled in voice and hand gestures. Another good example of a driver would be Donald Trump. He, again, if you've seen him speak, he is very controlled and targeted. When he looks at you, man, you know that he's after you hook, line, and sinker, and you're going to do exactly what he wants you to do. And always keeps the task present with less people focus. And the people around him know exactly what they want from him. I'm a driver. I couldn't be any further off the chart if I tried. and my staff would know in the agency that if they needed to come and talk to me, how they would need to react to me in order to get what they wanted from me. And I'll give you another example further on. Amiables. The best amiable that I could come up with is Betty White. At 87, she, God love her, is kicking along, and she is a typical amiable. She is very people-oriented. She emotes and is emotional. She is respectful and diplomatic. She uses hand gestures to make her point. She'll avoid confrontation at all costs, but when pushed, she will tell you what she thinks. Get back to Dancing with the Stars and take a look at Carrie-Ann Inaba. She would be considered an amiable. She's open with her feelings and expresses agreement with the other judges. She uses limited hand gestures to make her point, but she uses them effectively to do so. Expressive. Again, I'm going to TV, and if you are watchers of The View, Whoopi Goldberg would be my classic expressive. She doesn't give a darn what people think. She tells it like it is, according to her, with total disregard to people's feelings. She's a teller. She uses hand gestures frequently. She tends to modulate or raise her voice in order to be heard. She totally disregards another person's opinion. She uses her intuition to come to conclusions. Keeping with the judges, let's use the last one being Bruno. Bruno would be considered, again, an A-plus expressive, right? He's jumping around. He's very modulating in his voice. He screams at you. It's extreme in hand gestures and the use of them. And again, he really disregards people's personal opinions and feelings. He would be considered very blunt in his presentations. To further help you relate each style, let's delve a little deeper into some cues and things to observe. For a driver, they are interested in the end, the task at hand. All information is taken in and tested against their conclusions. An example, you present multiple quotes, and they will test one against the other against what they really want, whether it be a lower price or a set of product features. They tend to get right to the bottom line, not particularly warm and fuzzy. As I mentioned, I'm a driver, and I go right off the charts, and my team knows that if they want to discuss a particular project with me, that they have to have their facts together, they have to present their case quickly, and offer their opinions. They watch my voice, and then they watch my eye contact. If I stray, they know they've lost me, and they need to refocus. Re-ask the question, bring it back to the task at hand, and what exactly it is that they need from me in order to accomplish the task. Analytics. They, too, have to make a decision based on facts and statistics. They have to prove their point again. So if they want to, they'll review and review and review, and they're the prospect that keeps coming back and asking you for more information and more questions. Can you help me understand this? Is there a better carrier that has this provision? And again, they are very slow to make a decision. When talking with an analytic, you use a very organized approach. You support your facts with facts, and then you follow up if you've told them that you're going to give them more information, because they expect that of you. Amiables are sometimes hard to distinguish, and as it relates to the other style being expressive. But here is a tip. They ask a lot of questions. They'll show a particular personal interest in you, maybe ask about your family, maybe ask about what you do on the outside, what hobbies you might have. They're not risk takers and will solicit opinions from other people before they make a decision. Relating to them is to relate to them with people that they might know, and offering what services or products that you might have worked with a friend and explain why you recommended that product to them. This will help put an amiable at ease. Their top priority is feeling safe. So when you are pitching an amiable or servicing an amiable, everything you do says, I'll take care of this, I'll make sure that I handle this for you, and this cover is appropriate because this is going to protect you from ... identity theft, collision, whatever it happens to be. Expressives are people-oriented as well. They're tellers, and they're the people in the agency that tells you like it is. Good news and bad news, they deliver it either way. They don't sugarcoat anything. They are warm and emoters. They seem friendly. But again, they have the two sides of Janus, good and bad. If you relay stories about influential people, such as, someone had their identity stolen, and so-and-so bought this product, and it happened to be Rush Limbaugh, they would consider that someone of importance with power and success, and that they too would want to have something like that in their portfolio of products. So how do you tie all of this together? You practice, you practice, you practice. Style awareness is not a parlor game. It is a proven behavioral analysis tool. As to listening, try this approach and see what one-pointed focus enables you to do. Clear your mind, listen well, look for cues, ask, tell, and also gauge the emotion in their voice as to whether it is varied, whether it's controlled, and then follow through from there. We will continue to use these two skills as we progress to our next calls. So here's your homework. Identify your own style and the style of your teammates. Why? Because once you identify their style, you can modify yours so that it's easier to work with that individual. It will also achieve positive results and end conflict. Assuming someone else's tension when you hear it in a voice will allow you to apply their style to diffuse conflict and achieve their objectives. Okay. Practice active listening. You will be surprised when you learn, when you let others tell and talk and pause before talking. Sometimes people are not complete with their thought, and long pauses are not bad. Sometimes when people pause, they're actually thinking and processing the information that you've given to them. So follow the lead of your caller. If you have presented them with a fact, pause for a moment and wait and ask an open-ended question like, is there anything else regarding that point that you would like me to address? There is so much more to style awareness than we can cover. There are backup styles and splits within quadrants that further define a style. This all comes from talking and taking the time to learn the discipline. Here are a couple books to do some research. The first is by David Merrill, the top expert in style awareness, and the second is a practical guide to use with your teammates called People's Styles at Work and Beyond. Both are available on Amazon. I want to thank you for your attention, and please feel free to contact me with any questions or need clarification on what we've covered. Our next call is scheduled for June 14th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and we will be discussing how to explore client needs. Sure do look forward to it. And before we wrap, does anybody have any questions or comments before we sort of end the broadcast?
Well, we did have one question come in, and in the spirit of being a CSR, they were talking about when you were talking about listening, and they said, a lot of times people are going to call in, and they have a feeling that they know why they're calling, and they're trying to save them time. So What do you think about that?
Well, again, if you are dealing with an analytic, the best way to deal with an analytic is to answer their questions quickly and give them follow-up. So if they come back and they say to you, I need another quote or whatever, that's pretty telling, and you can say, well, I'll be glad to do that. But try to bring them around to help them to make decisions by asking open-ended questions again. What is it about the quote that you feel that you need additional information about? You know, help to clarify what it is that you need to do. Amiables, you really have to rope in because they're the ones that would like to keep you on the phone for an hour and a half and talk to you about everything except what they really need to do. So after you get the pleasantries out of the way, again, you need to ask them questions. What is it that I can do for you? How can I help you? And then be able to resolve it. Same thing on the driver. A driver, you don't need to ask them what it is that they need. If they come on the phone, they're all businesslike. They come and they say, I need to add a car to my my policy. Here, what information do you need? Boom, 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 boom. That's what they want you to be, very task-oriented. The end result is he needs to have a car put on his policy, and that's what you need to do. On the expressive, again, is like an amiable. You can just turn them to you by telling them, all right, because that's their style, which is to tell. If they need to have a car that's added to the policy and they don't have the information, you tell them what exactly it is that you need from them in order to get the task at hand, because they, as well as being people persons, they too, you know, want you to get things done. You need to be able to respond with correct follow-up. Does that answer your question?
I think so. We have a couple other questions too.
Sure.
Someone commented that, would you agree that people can be very different in their business dealings and another in their family life? Or is a person?
At the core of your being, you are a certain source. You behave, even with your family, with certain things. Okay. Having said that, if you come from a large Italian family and everybody's big motors and everybody's telling everybody else what you think, if you put them in a one-on-one, you will actually see the cues. In businesses, and the more that you practice style awareness, the more that you're going to be able to identify a style of a family member or a business person and be able to adapt your style. As an example, if you have a mother-in-law that likes to tell you all the time what to do and is very open in opinions and it modulates and gestures up the yin-yang, you know that that probably is an expressive. So for you to get the attention of an expressive, you have to take on the style of an expressive. So where you might ask questions of your mother-in-law and say, and try to play nice, that actually brings you more conflict. So for them, you turn the tables and you say, hey, mother whoever, if that's what you call them, or Nancy or whatever you address them as, tell them your feelings. Tell them what you want, and the good and the bad with it, and you will be amazed at how you can end conflict. You need to understand backup styles, and that, unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to get into because style awareness is really is much deeper than what we just covered, because each quadrant actually is split in fours again. And people move within the quadrant, but they don't move out of their style. Okay?
Okay. How about handling an aggressive client?
The first thing you have to do is just before you say anything to them, how may I help you? And then let them rant, because they've got to get it out, and you're usually the person that's the victim that they've had an accident, they need your help, you're not responding, what's wrong with you, what can you do for me, yada, yada, yada. And this is where I say, you take that deep breath before you answer the question or address the situation, and you just say, Mr. Client, I'm here to help you. I need you to tell me very clearly what it is that you would like us to help you with so that you can resolve it. You have to put a pin in a bully and deflate the balloon before you can actually get them. And usually if you just say, I'm here to help you, how may I help you? But if they continue to be abusive, then that's where you have to turn the table and say, Mr. Client, I'm here to help you, and, you being abusive to me is not really going to get us anywhere. If you just explain to me clearly what it is that you need us to do, I'll handle the situation. If it becomes even more abusive than that, cut it off, bring in a supervisor, and just say, Mr. Client, let me have you talk to the producer or a principal or whatever, and let them handle it. It's better that way for you, and it's better for the client, because then you're not in the middle anymore, and they can take this out on the principal, who has probably broader shoulders and a lot more time than you do to be able to deal with it. All you can do is to try to diffuse the situation, and if it's not diffusable, then turn it over to a supervisor, would be my advice.
We have another question. Sometimes agents think that the CSRs are on the phone too long, and some they want them to be efficient, and so some personalities are harder to deal with. Or is it always advisable to sympathize with them and try to relate to them?
If you want a good end result, you have to. Okay. Producers have to understand, just like they do when they go out on the links on the golf course, they spend their time listening to what the client needs. You're doing the exact same thing without benefit of being on the golf course. Okay, you want to be able to make sure that the client is being well served. And again, this comes from, is it a client that has one product with you, two products with you, three products? Obviously, the more influential the client, the longer you're going to spend with them, because they're the ones that are paying you money to represent them. You are their risk manager. You're their trusted advisor, and if you don't take the time to talk to the client, then you're not doing your job. I think that with an amiable especially, you tend to get caught up in the personal aspect of dealing with them, and what you have to know is how to keep friendly, ask them the appropriate questions, or let them ask them, but you have to keep roping them back in, because you could be on the phone with them for an hour. Analytics are non-deciders, so you just need to keep giving them information in order to do that. If you're finding that an analytic, after you've presented a series of details, is still not getting it, the best thing to do is say to them, why don't we give you a day or two to take a look at this, and let me call you back and end the call, because you're banging your head against brick. They're not going to respond any faster, because they need to assimilate the information that you've given to them. Drivers are going to be on the phone and off the phone faster than you can blink. They're going to want you to be very efficient, very quick, very timely, boom, 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 and they're going to get off the phone. Expressives, you have to let them tell you what it is that they want, but again, you need to pull them in, because they like to emote. They're talkers as well. So you have to control the environment so that the time that you are spending with them is productive.
Okay, that's good. What about what type of style do you think makes the best CSR?
There is no perfect style for a CSR, because even though you know your style, that is like a badge of honor, okay? That's who you are, all right? But when you're dealing with your client, you have to be the chameleon, all right? You have to change your style to theirs in order to be successful in relating to them. If you are an amiable, talking to an amiable, you're going to get off like, you're going to be famously best friends, and you're going to chat for whatever. Your problem is trying to control what you do, because you all the time, all right? But if you are an amiable, talking to an analytic, if you want to have a successful result, you're going to have to talk in terms of an analytic, right? So it really doesn't matter what your style is personally, because you have to change your style based on the person that you're talking with and the individual that you're sitting across from.
Okay. So someone commented that they are an amiable, but they try to get to the point with a client by letting them know when they'll get back to them and repeating all that they're going to take care of for them.
That's
Just
correct.
wondering, is that a good way to relate?
That's an excellent way, because, again, if you can relate it back to personal story and tell them why you're doing this and giving them that sense of security, which is very important for an amiable, you will have a very, very successful transaction with them, an interaction with them. Okay? Trying to get people to do what you want them to do, especially if you're not in the mood to change your style, is tough, because then you as a driver, like as an example, my backup style is autocratic. Okay, what does that mean? It means if somebody comes at me and at me and at me, my backup style is I'm going to turn them right off. All right, and then I will become very autocratic and very short and very clipped in my responses. Okay, and you can pick up the backup style, and that's why I'm saying we should probably do something on, maybe send something out to everybody, Lori, on backup styles, because people will either be in their style, or if put in a stressful situation, they will turn to their backup style. And you need to know what those are in order to be able to diffuse difficult situations, like that person that comes at you that is very, upset and screaming and yelling. So maybe something on that as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, so we have a couple more questions.
Oh, good.
And let's see. It says, when you're quoting home, auto, umbrella, jewelry, schedules, you can't really hurry that conversation because there's a great volume of information that you need in order to provide an accurate quote to them.
Yes.
So she's feeling like, I guess it's a balancing act between being fact-based and building that bridge over the phone so that they come to trust you.
When we go through questioning and asking individuals for information, you can become the data taker, which is just tell me the facts and write them all down. You're just a rapid fire of questions, and what do you think about this, da. Or you can preface your questions with tell me about, or, so as an example, to get to an auto quote, right, you need to know who the drivers are, you need to know their ages, you need to know all that kind of stuff, and you can just add some open-ended questions to humanize the situation. There's an awful lot of information that you have to present. So when you are going through a quote, as an example, pick the salient points, something that is different, something that they really need to know about. If coverages are apples to apples if you're doing a quote, or if you're trying to explain the value added of a particular policy feature, that's what you want to call out and talk to them about. If it's the routine things, obviously, the standard data, you don't want to go over that. You want to go over the real meat of a quote, because that's where people are stumbling. How many people understand underinsured or uninsured motorists? What's the difference? Tell me about it. Why do I want to have that feature? What does it mean to me? And again, depending on what the style is, everybody's got a different bottom line as to why they want something. Does that help? We're an information giver, all right? And when we present, we also need to take time to listen. So before you go too rapid fire in a presentation, take the time to make sure that they understand what it is that you're relaying to them by asking open-ended questions to make sure that they understand. If they tell you something and you hear something that doesn't make sense, you reiterate it back to them by parroting and saying, do I understand that this is how you see this policy feature, or, can you clarify this again, because this is what I heard and this is really what you want me to do, because then, number one, they know that you're listening and caring about them and that you really want to get it right. and they'll appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to give them what they've told you back to them in your understanding. That's really powerful. When you can relay back to somebody that you've listened very clearly and can articulate what you heard back to them, that's a win-win. I got to tell you, every time, I am always impressed when I talk to a customer service rep who I've talked to on the telephone, and she's relayed back to me her understanding of what I've asked her to do. That's very, very powerful. Any others?
Excellent. No, I think that's about it.
Super. Well, we've really run over 15 minutes. I apologize for that, but I'm so glad to see that you were engaging in the session.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to wrap up and say,
sure.
Hanover was very pleased to be able to bring the session to our CSRs to improve their opportunities by better understanding their customers and really beginning to work with them as a trusted advisor. And after this session, I want to let everybody know that I will be forwarding out the session materials. I'll link to the recording so that you can listen to it again or send it on to anyone else in the office that might have missed it. And then I'll also send out links to future sessions and a survey. So please do take the time, just a quick 8-question survey, and let us know how we did. And Valerie, thank you so much. Appreciate
Super.
it. And to all, have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.